own it, because in this particular area, all land from this point in the high tide mark, etc., is owned by the federal government or by the populace at large. And so we're going to see a large displacement that will result from that. Plus the actual rise in the sea level and its impact on places like Florida, Bangladesh, India, etc.
Yes, yes. One of the biggest things about any of this information is basically preparing for it. I mean, being conscious of it, keeping your eyes open, and being aware of what's going on out there, and of course, preparing yourself. I mean, you and I have talked about that in past programs. You've even taken steps to kind of disconnect from. Well, certain things, like, I mean, it'd be great to disconnect completely from the electricity and gas and just be kind of self-sufficient. But lots of people are really starting to turn that direction and start doing that.
We have to, and actually we're now starting to see the formalization of it, and what will become what we're calling the planetary populace movement. And we're seeing this in, for instance, some articles out by Catherine Austin Fitz on how it now makes more sense to invest in your neighbors than it does in anything outside your local community. And this is the beginning of what we had thought of as the formalization of our SOCs, or self-organizing collectives. And I agree that we're going to see more and more people that will be focused on what is local, what can I do local, because real soon I won't be able to get it if it isn't local. So I need to take an analysis of what my resources are, form my collective, that is to say, seek out like-minded individuals that we can be mutually supportive, and see what our options are. And whole communities in the West are doing this relative to the concept of peak oil. And it doesn't matter if it's peak oil or dollar death, the end result is the same. It could be that barrel of oil goes down to $10 for a barrel, but that is relatively meaningless if it takes all of your whole county to come up with $10 to buy a single barrel.
Yes, yes.
Simply because your dollars have gone, that kind of a deal. We have counties out here in the West that had hundreds of millions of dollars invested in some of these wild schemes on Wall Street that supposedly were the retirement for the entire civilian workforce there. And we're going to start seeing the retirement collapse as part of all of this in February, March, and April. And it's going to be very ugly for the U.S.
What about this biggest fraud case in history, this Ponzi scheme that was going on? Did you see any of that coming?
Sure. Actually, we had some rather disturbing language, which you and I can't repeat because it's too scatologically referencing. But we were talking about people who would soil themselves as a result of learning that the extent of the scandal and how it was money-focused. And actually, we also had language in there saying that our linguistics suggested that Israel would be at the center of it relative to where the money went. So it may be that indeed the rumors are true, and he had moved a bunch of money off to Israel where it can't be gotten at.
Right, which that's still ongoing, so we may learn that is the case.
That may indeed be the situation. We just don't know at this stage, but our linguistics were at least forecasting that, and we had the timing pretty good. I think we were off by about 11 days for the actual naming of the name as to how it was happening, but the soiled pants came a little bit early, unfortunately.
Yes.
It's quite true within that part of the linguistics. We talked about people that would suicide over this, and indeed we're seeing that now.
Yes, yes. Which that isn't a bad window as far as 11 days.
No. And we were off by a single day on Musharraf leaving Pakistan. We were off by about 36 hours early on the earthquake in China, that kind of thing. So our timing varies, but it has to do with this idea of slang versus legal language, and we apply a numeric value to the various forms of language, slang, technical, etc. And by applying these numeric values, we attempt to get timing clues, and of course that is where we go and retune everything after each run to try and get our timing down better.
Yes, yes. Going back to the attack, basically, the gearing up of an attack on especially internet radio and the internet in general with thoughts and talk of putting an intranet system in the United States as well. The current administration that's coming in, the new administration that's coming in, they kind of support that idea. They like that idea, as a matter of fact. It hasn't really been fully discussed, but there has been some stuff. If that happens, what does it mean for the future for your technology?
Oh, it puts us out of business. There's no question. Not only is the internet our delivery mechanism, but it's our large source. And if it's being censored, I theoretically could go to the trouble of working out their algorithms that are being used for their censorship and then back engineering them to get some sense of the original language that so offended them. But at that point, it's not worth it to me because things are too close to the outbreak of active revolution and planetary changes, and I've got to get my gear moving in a different direction.
You know,
we suspect that this revolutionary surreality is what we're calling it. The idea that they're going to start trying thought control out in the open, this sort of thing, will appear with some vengeance over the course of 2009, maybe as early as May or so, maybe slightly earlier than that if we're really aware and we're watching for it. But it'll continue through 2009 through 2010. At some point in there, I suspect that our work won't be viable anymore.
Right. Some of the things for people to keep their eyes on more than others in the coming months, what would they be?
I would watch for the emergence of, well, if you want a real clue as to when revolution is going active, start looking in probably music or maybe some of the more alternative media for the emergence of a new honorific. And this is currently, it's going to replace the use of sir in our language. Like when you run across somebody, you say, hi, sir, or madam is ultimate politeness, that kind of thing. That relates to nobility and monarchy who are the enemy, and that's going to change the same way it did in the Russian Revolution and the French Revolution before it. In the French Revolution, everybody called themselves citizens because they were all equal citizens in the new republic. In the Russian Revolution, it was tovarищ or comrade because they needed a new way to distinguish themselves from the old monarchists. We too will find that language emerging, and shortly thereafter, the revolution will start going active in the U.S. That may be May through August or sometime. If you look really hard, you'll start seeing people referring to each other with this new honorific title that won't be sir in terms of its masculine form. It'll be something else. I don't know if it'll be citizen or comrade or some takeoff of that, but we at least have the forecast for it.
Yes. You know, it's kind of interesting that you said music because we do see a lot of the changes in language and even like slang and things like that in music first before it starts hitting the public, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the larger areas that we go ahead and mine is all of the music-related language and speech that's all over the internet. That's just a bountiful area for us. So that's probably where it will arise. And there may be a number of different things that arise in contention for that slot, and one or two of the slang elements will survive for a couple of years and then become part of the general lexicon everybody uses. So you may be saying, hello citizen or hail citizen here next year or whatever as part of your commitment to the planetary revolution against the Illuminati.
I'm going to start saying...
It sounds goofy to talk about, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you were talking earlier about the year 2001 and how things changed relative to earthquakes.
Yes.
Also in 2001, another significant change took place for us, and that was linguistic reports of UFOs went up over 10,000% in the course of 3 months. And that kind of thing, the contact meme and everything, is going to come rushing out in 2009 as well.
Right.
We also think, very specifically, we think that the federal government contraction in 2009 will squeeze out a whistleblower from NASA that will just be the most successful whistleblower anybody's ever seen.
Really?
And it will just shock the United States as to how much they've been lied to.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. I'm going to try and squeeze in a couple more emails here. It says, does Clif have any more concrete images of what we might expect the summer from hell to look like?
That's going to be a mixture of both massive social breakdown in the form of the social contract. We may see the repudiation of things like, Medicaid or Social Security. I don't know. Predicting at that level of direness is going to be difficult. Those may just be side effects to what we're seeing. We might see a 50 or 80% drop in the value of property in the U.S. We may see the coastal event push people back in from the coastal areas now, plus disrupt shipping and that kind of stuff. At the same time that we see vast numbers of unemployed people start taking things into their own hands and moving into giant squatter villages and taking over buildings and this sort of a deal. So that's kind of the flavor of the summer of hell, that the dollar breakdown amidst the biospheric changes will interrupt the social contract, and we'll all be fumbling around trying to deal with each other in a new way. Because, of course, you recognize that under certain conditions of chaos and pre-revolutionary states, such things as an ordinary legal system just really don't exist.
Yes. All right, one more here for you. It says, I wanted to ask, the global coast Coast event has been in the data space for a while now, several years or something like that. Is there anything seemingly bigger past it, or is it going to be the worst hit in several years?
I think there is something beyond it simply because of the numeric values that are showing themselves in our long-term data, but I can't predict that now because our long-term data really only goes out with any kind of granularity about 18 months. So the global coastal events could occupy 5 of those months and may trail off for a number of months afterwards. Bear in mind, it might be that for 5 solid months, nothing that comes out in the media except the fear, for instance, that maybe a glacier is going to go or something along those lines. We really don't know what the global coastal events going to look like, but we do know that there are certain manifestations occurring at this point. Right. But I believe they're a precursor. No, I do not believe they're any kind of a penultimate.
Well, definitely going to keep our eyes open on it.